If you're a college student and you're still using a debit card for everything, we should talk. Maybe you got a store credit card because they promised you 20% off that one purchase, and now you're stuck with a card that's basically useless everywhere else. Look, I've been there. I've had multiple student cards, made mistakes, and learned what actually matters. And today, I'm breaking down the 3 best student credit cards and telling you which one I actually use every single day. These 2 cards are the Capital One Saver Student Card and the Discover It Student. And I'll explain why Chase isn't even in the conversation anymore. So, why do student cards matter? Before we compare cards, let's talk about why you even need one. A credit card isn't about spending money you don't have. It's about building a credit score. That 3-digit number affects your apartment applications, car loans, and even some job applications. And here's the thing most people don't realize. Credit age matters. The sooner you open a card and use it responsibly, the better your score will be when you actually need it. Like when you're trying to get approved for your first apartment after graduation. Student cards are designed for people with little to no credit history. They're your entry point. But not all student cards are created equal. Let's start with my daily driver, the Capital One Saver Student Card. I do have a referral link in the description, but I'm recommending this card because I genuinely use it. On the Capital One card, you get 3% back on dining, which includes restaurants, fast food, coffee shops, bars, and 3% on groceries, 3% on streaming, which includes Netflix, Spotify, Disney+, and 3% on entertainment, which includes concerts, movies, and even theme parks. And anything else? That's 1% back too. There's no annual fees or foreign transaction fees, which matters if you're studying abroad. Think about your actual spending as a college student. Dining hall swipes don't count, but every time you hit Chipotle, grab coffee, order DoorDash at 2 a.m. during finals week, that's 3% cash back. The welcome bonus is $200 after you spend just $500 in 3 months. It sounds like a lot, but it basically is just existing as a college student for a couple of months. Now, here's what I actually love about this card: the app. Capital One's mobile app is genuinely one of the best banking apps I've used, and I use an online bank. It's clean, it's fast, and it has this feature that can generate virtual card numbers for online shopping. So if some sketchy website gets hacked, your real card number is safe. They also have CreditWise built in, free credit score monitoring, credit simulator, and even dark web monitoring to tell you if your info got leaked somewhere. So what's the downside? Capital One is known for something called bucketing. Basically, some people get approved with really low credit limits, like $300 to $500, and it can be hard to get increases. I got lucky and started a bit higher, but it's worth knowing. Now let's talk about Discover, because this was actually my first credit card, and there's a reason why it's still in my wallet. The headline feature is the cashback match. Whenever you earn cash back in your first year, Discover literally doubles it at the end of the year. No limit. So if you're strategic about it, you can effectively earn 10% back on rotating categories and 2% on everything else for your entire first year. But here's the catch, and this is why I switched to Capital One as my primary. You have to track rotating categories and activate them quarterly. On Discover, quarter 1 might be restaurants and streaming. Quarter 2 might be gas stations. Quarter 3 might be something completely different. If you forget to activate it, you're earning 1% instead of 5%. For me personally, I just forget. Life gets busy. So I'd rather have a consistent 3% on the categories I actually use than potentially higher rewards I might miss. That said, Discover has some killer features. First, they have late payment forgiveness. If you mess up once, they waive the fee. That's huge when you're learning, and they also give you your actual FICO score, not a Vantage score like most cards. FICO is what lenders actually use, so you're seeing the real number. And there's the good grade reward. You get a $20 statement credit each year if you maintain a 3.0 GPA, which is free money if you already have a 3.0. If you have zero credit history, Discover is probably the easiest to get approval for. They explicitly say no credit score required to apply. So what's the downside? Discover's network acceptance is not great outside the US. If you're planning to study abroad, you might find a Discover card declined at a lot of places in Europe or Asia, where Capital One runs on MasterCard, which is basically accepted everywhere. Oh, what about Chase, you might ask? They're a huge bank. They must have a good student card, right? So here's the thing. Chase discontinued their student card in 2023. It's gone. They replaced it with the Freedom Rise, which technically isn't a student card, it's a credit filter card that many students might option for. But honestly, it's fine. It's just not competitive. The Chase card gives you 1.5% flat cash back on everything, which sounds okay until you realize Capital One gives you 3% on categories where you're most likely to actually spend money. But the real downside to the Chase card is there's a 3% foreign transaction fee. So if you buy anything internationally, even online from a foreign merchant, you're losing money. Now don't get me wrong, Chase's ecosystem is great if you're planning to get into travel hacking with their Sapphire cards later. But for right now, as a student, Capital One or Discover wins. Quick side note that might actually matter. Capital One and Discover actually merged earlier this year. Right now, both cards are still separate products. Nothing has changed, but in the future, we might see combined benefits or changes to either card. Just a heads up. I'll make an updated video if anything major changes. For now, this advice still stands. So what should you get? Here's my honest take. If you have zero credit history and want the easiest approval with the best first year value, get the Discover It Student. That cashback match is genuinely insane. If you want a card you'll use for years, that's simple, that has the best everyday rewards, and that works internationally, get the Capital One Saver Student. This is what I use daily. And honestly, if you can get approved for both, do it. I use both. Capital One is my everyday card because the rewards are consistent and the app is better. Discover sits in my wallet for those rotating category quarters when they actually match my spending. Just remember, having two cards means two bills to track. So don't open more than you can handle. The whole point is building credit, not digging into debt. If this video helped you figure out which card to get, hit the subscribe button. I'm making more content about student finance, credit building, and honestly, just surviving college without going broke. Leave a comment telling me which card you're going with, or if you already have one of these cards, how's your experience been? Referral links for both cards are in the description. If you want to support the channel, no pressure. All the info is the same either way. I'm John, and I'll see you in the next one.